Recording in progress.
Okay, so welcome back to Think Differently. It's so funny. I've been doing these 3-ish times a month. We do not meet on the fourth Thursday of the month because that's when I have my networking events. If you've never joined us, please come join us. It's a lot of fun. But it's always funny for me now, having not seen you guys for Think Differently now it's been 2 weeks since the last one. I'm feeling like, oh my God, like we got to get going. When's the next one? So I don't know. It's just validation for me that doing these basically once a week has been good for me. So I hope it's good for you. Again, those of you who are live, please feel free to participate in the chat as we go. I always have notes, and I could talk about this topic for 47 years. And because you're live, you have the opportunity to direct the chat or the conversation in whatever direction serves you best. So feel free to ask questions, to let me know what's resonating, to let me know what you're like. Please give me an example. Please explain. I don't know what you're talking about. That will be very helpful too. And then if you're live, I would love to know. So today we're talking about, if things feel low in your business, this might be why. And I have several different possibilities for why this might be. If you were drawn to sign up just because you wanted to sign up, awesome. If you were drawn for a specific reason around this topic, or maybe let me just also ask it this way. What about this topic might you need to hear today, or would you want me to make sure that I cover today? If that feels like something that I can cover, I will. So if you're live, go ahead and just let me know what about this topic you would like to learn, or what drew you to it. What's going on in your business? If something doesn't feel good, do you know what it is? Do you not? We're going to talk about that today. And if you do know what it is, if you feel comfortable sharing, I won't share your first name with that if you want to share that more anonymously. But I think that probably, I also just want to say, if something feels meh to you in your business, there's probably somebody else out there that feels the same way. And so just sometimes naming that in a space of community, whether you're here live or on the replay, you can be serving one another, and we can pay it forward and let this feel a little bit of a less lonely process. So I'm going to read the chat here in a second, whatever you guys want to share. And then just briefly, I am giving away a free coaching session and if you've had one before, usually these are one-off, like you can only have one per person, but I'm waiving that exception because I want people to come. So if you came at all this whole month for Think Differently, and I may redo it next month, every single time you join us, you get entered to win. And then I will, tomorrow, I'll be drawing the winner for the free session. So just by being live, you're already entered, but just please say something in the chat, even if it's just like, hi. But that's how I will go back through and track who was live and who came, and we'll draw names out of the hat tomorrow if you'd like a free coaching session. And you can use it whenever you want. So if you want to hang out and wait till January, you can do that. If you want to jump in and now, you can do that too. Let's see. Okay, so just briefly, if you do not know me, my name is Laura Livingston. I am a business and mindset coach, and I work exclusively one-on-one with my clients. I do not have a group program. You're going to hear me talk a little bit about my framework today, but I do not have a methodology or a process or something that I specifically teach. I have a background in change management, consulting, and human behavior, and essentially, my philosophy on business is that while there are so many things that are universal and so many things that we do not need to recreate the wheel and make stuff up brand new. Most business decisions, most business strategies, most things we do in business need to be a great, good match for you and the business, for your skills and your strategy, for what's going on in your life right now and letting your business support that, right? I always talk about my clients who work part-time and have kids. Like, we're building their business around that with that in mind to support that lifestyle, not hoping that if we just slam a bunch of stuff in to a 40, 70-hour week that we're also going to then be able to have time with the kids after we make a bunch of money. No, we're going to build that around the design of the lifestyle. And so much of my work is really customized and unique to my clients, but all in all, we're always looking to do some very simple things like run a healthier business, make it more profitable, make it more sustainable, make it more enjoyable. Most of my people are very passionate about the work that they do, and in it for the long game. And so we're building sustainable businesses. We're not just trying to build peak months and quarters. We're looking to really create something that will last for you, for your business, for your clients, for your customers, for your family, whoever it is that you're supporting, for your team in the long run. And so with that, you're going to hear me talk about a couple of examples as we go. I always talk through things from different sides. So take what fits your business right now, and please leave what does not fit your business. So much of what I'm going to ask you to do today is think about some things, and if something doesn't relate to you, then move it on. We do not need more noise. I'm hoping to simplify things today, not to make them more complicated. Okay. Let me just check the chat, and then I'm going to jump on in here. Wanted to hear all the things. I love it. Wanted to hear your perspective because business is scary slow right now. Yeah, and I just want to share also that I did a whole one of these topics. I think I called it like 3 things that are working right now. And I have another one next month of the 2 things that I see working the most in 2024, just kind of like a little bit of a year in review next month I'll be talking about. So definitely make sure you sign up for that one. And if you want the link to the other one, I'm happy to send it to you. So just let me know in the comments or shoot me an email and I'll send you the link to the replay. But all that is to say, industries are changing, the small business industry for sure. It is a buyer's market. Like that's just the short of it right now. And so especially if you started your business in 2020 when it was a seller's market, adjustments have to be made. And I think something that I've seen in the more than 20 years that I've been working with businesses, in my corporate career, I worked with big, huge, massive global businesses that took forever to change anything. And now I love working with these small businesses where for me, my clients always tell me it doesn't happen fast enough for them, right? It's never fast enough. But for me, it feels so satisfying to be able to sit with the decision maker and the business owner and make a decision and move forward and see that generate results. But all that is to say, like all the work that I've studied, all the businesses I've consulted and coached, change is just constant. It's just constant. And long-term businesses that can sustain, if you're still here, you're like, let's just celebrate the crap out of that. When we are playing the long game, we will go through buyer's markets. We will go through seller's markets. The economy will be up sometimes. The economy will be down sometimes. Learning to ebb and flow with that doesn't mean we like it all the time, but learning to ebb and flow with that is a skill, and it's something that I've been teaching people for most of my career. And so if that's something that you want to talk about further, one, let me know and I'll stick it into a topic. We'll talk about it a little bit today. And 2, if you want to work together, that resilience piece and managing the change is one of my specialties, and I think really, really important right now. But all that is to say, just to normalize, if you're not having your best year, you're not the only one. We have seen a slowdown, mainly because I just want to quickly say sales cycles are slower. That's the number one, I think almost everybody can agree with that, no matter what industry they're in. There's lots of nuances depending on the industry. But sales cycles are, I'm sorry, did I say slower? Sales cycles are longer. So it's just taking longer to generate the sales, and the relationships are taking longer to build, which also means people need more touch points. Again, I talked about a lot of this in what's working. So if that would be helpful for you, please let me know and I'll grab you the replay. Okay. But part of the reason that some people are feeling meh about business or low about business this year especially is because everything has shifted. And that adjustment of just even understanding, it took me a while to figure out that sales were slowing, and that it was not that I was doing something weird. It was that the industry was changing and I then needed to adjust, right? It takes a minute to figure that out. And so I want to talk about a couple of things today. This may not be the only reason, but if business feels meh, it might just be that you're adjusting still to the buyer's market and your business then needs to adjust to that. It will always serve you. Creating those skills for a buyer's market is just as important as creating skills in a seller's market. Yes, okay, I will get that to you. Okay, I didn't put my notes. I put my notes on my computer today, so let's see if I can do it differently. Let me grab. Okay, so what are we talking about? Where is my starting point? Okay, so yes, first off, it could just be the industry. The other piece I just want to say, and this is really not in scope for our conversation today, but there is a lot going on in the whole wide world. And I think really since 2020, mental health in our society as a whole has taken a toll, right? Lots more. We had isolation in 2020, but we had all these other things going on. Again, I'm not going to go through that, and also you already know that. But I do think that in general, with all that's going on, I remember in 2020 when people would say like, in their marketing, like they're serving you, I don't know, maybe they help you with your stress, helping you with your stress, and it would say in challenging times. Right? And I remember that being kind of like a new phrase. Well, everybody's using it all the time, and it's 4 years later, 4.5 years later, right? There's some fatigue of all the stuff that's happening in the world. And so if that is you, I just want to say, I see you, I get you. I have had my own experiences in the last few years. That's not what we're here to talk about today. But again, if we're going to look at contextually what's going on in your business and how you're feeling, if your mental health is suffering, if you're stressed out by what's going on in the world, all these things, I am a business and a mindset coach, which means I bring the human stuff for my business owners and the business stuff, and I look at them together and how they fit together. We cannot look at your business without also looking at yourself. And so again, we're not going to talk about that today, but if the state of the world has you down, that alone is going to affect your business. It just is, right? We cannot separate our humanity from our work. And so that might be enough for you to go, oh yeah, I'm just having a hard time personally. Business is actually okay. You can close down and listen to me on another day. Like that might just be the answer, right? And again, so much of what I want to talk about today is about how to find the right source of the problem. Most of these Think Differently events, I talk a lot about what to do about it. And I'm going to just acknowledge right off the bat and apologize a little bit up front. We're not going to talk a lot about what to do about it because I only can talk about so much in a 30 to 45 minute period. And I think that it's really important. Again, so much of what I'm doing with my clients is when we have a problem, understanding if what we have presented is a symptom or the source, right? So I could have, like I used to have a lot of back pain, right? But was it because of something in my back, or was it because my glutes were really tight, or because my ankles were off center, right? Where's the symptom might be different than the actual source of the problem. And so today what we're going to look at is like, where might the source of your problem be? Because so often what I find is really slowing people down right now is not knowing what the source of the problem is. And so they're solving it over here, but they're just playing around with the symptom, which is never going to, or it's going to be really, really long time before you find the source, or you'll accidentally find the source, right? And not even be able, I also think about business like a scientific experiment, right? Go back to like elementary school or middle school or whenever it was that we learned about the scientific method and dependent variables. Like we want to be able to understand our business like science and understand if we change 4 things at once, we're not going to know which thing affected the change. And so again, today we're going to be really trying to locate the source of the problem. And then catch my previous replay and next month to talk more about what to do about it, or just grab a call with me and we can start talking that through. I would love to support you in your business. But again, I'm so much of a like problem solver. And so today is a little bit different, but this is the step 1 of solving the problem, right? Okay. That's enough preface. So let me just double check in my notes and make sure there was nothing else I wanted to share on that point. Yeah, and so the reason that we're talking about finding the source of the problem is because one, that's how you actually solve it, is knowing what the problem is, and then you can take steps to address it. But two, honestly, from a mindset perspective and a human perspective, most of the time when we don't effectively know what the source of the problem is, then we either blame the wrong thing, right? We blame the symptom or blame like let's just say not the problem, which then means we're effing with something in our business that might actually be working, right? So again, slowing that process down. But it also then generally, I find that my clients, my passionate people, my people who care so much about their business, and especially my solopreneurs, that's just when the human behavior and psychology, because you're a human, comes in, and it's like, then we just blame ourselves. So let's not blame ourselves for a longer sales cycle. Let's not blame ourselves for a buyer's market. Let's also then take responsibility and do what we need to do inside our business. Quick answer for what you do: focus on your marketing. But like, that is not going to solve the problem either, very practically speaking, by just getting mad and blaming ourselves. And I see that that's when we can't find the problem. One, we spin, right? And we're being ineffective, and we're just not efficient, and we're not solving problems. And that's like a very practical layer of it. But underneath that, from a mindset perspective, we're blaming ourselves, which then loses confidence, which then means we've decided we're the problem, which then also might mean we think we aren't a good whatever you are, right? Maybe I decide, oh, now I think maybe the problem is I'm just not a good coach. And then can you see how that just devolves everything that we've built? Mindset really matters in this case, and that's why we're talking about this today, because if you're adding to a business problem something that you've decided is your fault, then you now have two problems. You have the actual problem, and you have the blaming of yourself, which, like, this is very nice and stuff because we don't want to blame ourselves, and that makes you feel better when you don't blame yourself. But that's not the only reason to not blame yourself. The truth is, blaming yourself just adds more problems and does not serve your mindset. The science behind how brains work is that when we do that, we then prime our brains to find more problems and to find more evidence that we are the source of the problem, instead of being able to look with a clear head at our business strategically, holistically, and go, let me find the actual source of the problem. So it's really, really, really important. Number one, if you're blaming yourself, I mean, I can't solve it right now with this one sentence, but stop it. Or do what you need to do to stop it. And that's a topic for another day, but I'm a big fan of mindset work, journaling, EFT, meditation, talk therapy, having a coach. All those things will absolutely make a difference. Okay. So if we can find the right source, we can acknowledge it. And then the other thing we can do, and then we know, we have an action that we can take around it. The other thing we can do is sometimes when we can just acknowledge what the actual problem is, or something that we're going to talk about a little bit today is like when we can find what the problem isn't, sometimes that just causes a lot less stress because it's like, oh, it's not these 17 things, it's just this one thing or these two things. Great, now I know what to do. Now I know where to focus. Now I know to not touch those other 17 things and to just come over here and do work, right? And now I also don't have to blame myself. So when we can find that source and acknowledge it, we can also acknowledge that's also all it is. And most things in business are figure-outable. Okay. Let me know if there's questions as we go. So I'm going to talk about one of the biggest things that I've seen happening in the last couple of years. This may or may not be your problem, but I want to talk about it a little bit because I think it also can come as a symptom. And then if we have time, I will walk you through my framework in terms of how to look at your business. where you might start to be able to do a little audit. Depending on how much time we have, I might leave you with some homework to kind of keep thinking that through, workshop it with yourself. But I'll at least walk you through my framework, which is also a frame for looking at business. And I think it can just be helpful to go, oh, it's not that, it's not, there's only 4 pieces, right? It's not that, it's not that, it's not that. Okay, I think it might be in here. Now let me look at the pieces that are in here and see what this is. So the first thing I want to say, and the thing that I want to talk about the most today, is this idea, right? If you've never read Gay Hendricks' book, The Genius Zone, or Your Zone of Genius, I forget how he titles it, I highly, 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 highly recommend it. If for no other reason than validation that you're doing what you're meant to be doing. But essentially, if I just quickly speak to this, what he talks about is we all have our zone of genius, right? The work that fits in our genius zone is the work that we're best suited for, which means it feels easy, it feels interesting, it's motivating to execute, it's fun, we're good at it, it puts us in a flow. It might be hard, but it's the kind of hard we want. It's the kinds of challenges. Like I always like to say, when I'm looking for a new client, like what kinds of problems do I want to solve, right? All businesses have problems. I just want to, and coaches are solving problems as an example. I just want to solve the problems I want to solve. I want to solve what I find the most interesting. I like the problems I get to solve with my clients. They might not, but I do. And that's the whole point, right? You're solving problems for your clients or for your customers as well. And so when you're working in your zone of genius, you might be solving problems that are in your zone of genius, right? Just to like quick and dirty it. And then he has these other layers that fall underneath that of things like your zone of excellence, which is where a lot of people get stuck. This is where I was in my last career. I was doing work I was good at. I was moderately interested in it, but it wasn't the right setup for me. It wasn't quite the best use of my skills. And so it just wore me out. But I was good at it, so I kept being successful at it, right? People knew me for that, and then they asked me to do it more. Whereas what I wanted to be doing was more coaching and consulting. Well, I was doing consulting, but anyway, we'll get out of that. So point being, when you're in your zone of excellence, it's more draining. And so it doesn't mean that you need to build your entire business to only live in your zone of genius and to never do anything else. There's also like zone of competence, and I think zone of incompetence are the other ones. You definitely want to hire out, get somebody to help you with your zone of incompetence, especially if you are a solo business provider. Like, you cannot be good at everything. And there's a time and a place for that, and hiring is not what we're talking about today, but as an example. So what I find has happened for a lot of people in the last couple of years in small business land is not exactly that they're not working in their zone of genius, but that could be a frame for you to start to think about. But I find it to be more that they're working below their potential. And I think I brought this up in another live and or in another Think Differently event, and so many people said, "Oh crap, that's it. I didn't know that was what was going on with me." And so that's why I'm talking about that a little bit more today. But when you're not working at your potential, or let's also say when you're working below your potential, that has a deeply profound impact on your sense of fulfillment, on your motivation, on how much you're enjoying your work, right? So a very simple one that I'm seeing happen right now. And let's just use longer sales cycle as an example, right? If you are experiencing a longer sales cycle, which means you're not able to serve as many clients because sales are slowing down, that means you're not getting the opportunity. I'll use myself as an example, right? For me, that would mean I wasn't coaching enough people to make me happy, right? I love to coach. It's the easiest thing for me in my business. And so if I didn't have enough coaching calls on my calendar every week, you better believe that's going to make my business it's going to affect my happiness in my business at least this much, right? Because I'm operating, quote unquote, below my potential, right? That's a very simple explanation, but it's something that's sort of like the trickle down effect of not having enough work means then what would you be doing, right? I said a minute ago, one of the easiest things to do, or one of the, I don't want to say easy, let me say most obvious solutions to that problem is to double down your refinement on your marketing and to focus on that and to really get better at that. We can always be marketing better. I will be improving my marketing until I'm not a business owner anymore. That will always be something I'm focused on. But now is when that is really actually working. But if you're not serving as many clients and that's affecting you, and then you're then focusing on doubling down on marketing, and maybe the percentage of your service of clients versus your marketing last year might have been different than this year, right? And then that might affect your experience and your fulfillment in your business because you're spending more time doing something that's not in your zone of genius, right? So it's sort of the both. It's like you're spending less time in your zone of genius and you're spending more time in a different zone, which can be fatiguing, which can make you not feel great, right? And so again, it could simply just be that's the only thing that's wrong. And then it's just about, great, so we just need to work on lead generation. We just need to double down on our marketing. What works for us? Great. How can we just do that more and better? I'm way oversimplifying again, but I just want to throw that out there for today since I'm not solving the problem. Okay, so not working with enough clients. The other piece with that is we then lose confidence. Again, I talked about this a minute ago. I'm seeing a lot of lost confidence, either in your craft itself, like your service or I'm getting all twisted, your service or whatever you put out into the world can cause us to lose confidence if we're not able to do that, right? If we're living underneath our potential. But we can also, sorry, I lost my train of thought. We can also lose confidence in ourselves as business owners. And this is something that I've been working, I would say 80% of my clients this year came to me because they lost their confidence in their ability to build business skills. And they thought they were doing okay, and the longer sales cycle has really jacked up their confidence to the point where now they're questioning whether they really know how to do this, and they absolutely do. But when we have a dip, when we have something change, again, it's just so easy to start by blaming ourselves. And again, we can always just get better at these skills. Running a business is a skill. It's actually many skills. And these are skills we can learn and get better at. And that's a lot of the work I'm doing with my clients. But when we point the finger in the wrong place and say, oh, this must mean I'm a bad business owner, that's going to be the reason why you don't feel good in your business. And so you can lose confidence across the board in your business, in your skill as a person who runs a business, as an entrepreneur, in your confidence around that, or in your confidence around just you being good at what you do. And then another way that working below your potential really shows up, and I have seen this happen a lot too, is when you have done this work for some time. Take a minute and look backwards in your career. Even my dad, who was an attorney his entire career, 33 years as an attorney working for the same firm. Like on the outside, that looks like he just did the same damn thing for 33 years. But he practiced he focused on 4 or 5 different, fields of law, areas of law in those 33 years, right? So he started by representing people in car accidents. And then by the end, he was his clients were HR, he was an employment lawyer and represented people in HR. Very, very different. One is you're in court all the time. The other is all you do is try to keep your clients out of court, right? Completely different strategy, but he's still a lawyer. To us on the outside, that guy had the same job for 33 years. Everybody's career shifts and grows and evolves over time, whether it's you're shifting your industry of focus, or I started consulting and now I moved into coaching, but in both of those I used the other. When I was consulting, I was coaching too, and now that I'm coaching, I'm also consulting. But that change has been incredibly helpful for me as I've grown as a person, as I've grown in my craft over the years. my zone of genius, one, is I've learned is more coaching. And two, I've just learned how to kind of take everything that I have and make it work for me. But I didn't know that when I was 22 trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I know that now because I've lived it and I've hodgepodged it together, right? Everything shifts and evolves. And so back to this concept of working under your potential, sometimes you grow in your skills as whatever service and service that you're providing or product that you create. And therefore, when you grow and your work grows, but then the people that you're serving are still getting the old service, right? But you're like, wait, I've graduated and I'm up here now. I do this other really cool thing. Even if it looks the same, it can feel less than fulfilling because it's like, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do this thing. Again, a lot of times though, those things are very, very close to each other. They don't necessarily need to be out of your industry or a drastic change in the work itself. I hope this is making sense. Let me know. But again, as your work shifts and evolves, if you're working under your potential, if you are not executing that new work with your clients, and that can feel meh. That's one of the reasons why a lot of the work I've done this year is to help some established business owners to create new offers. It's not because they really need to do a full revamp or anything like that. Again, like on the outside, it looks like these teeny tiny changes, but on the inside to my clients, it feels like this is the next version of my work. This is the next version of my business. This is the work. This is like an offer that's generated on my 3 favorite clients right now, which might not be about the client. It might just be about the work. And now that I've done that with 3 clients, that's what I want to focus on. That's what I want to talk about in my marketing. Those are the clients I want to sign next. And so we build an offer or we refine an offer around that next level zone of genius or whatever you want to call that elevation in your craft. And so again, whether it's not the right work for you and that the work itself needs to be tweaked, or whether it's just not the right work for you anymore and that just needs a little bit of an elevation and adjustment, that alone, I have to tell you, do not underestimate the impact of, I used to call it pivoting, and it can be a pivot, it can be a big pivot, it can be a major career change. We all know what those are. But I find sometimes the small, nuanced changes that we want to make in our work because we've grown can get really confusing when you've been promoting the same offer for years, right? And then you're like, something doesn't feel right about this anymore. And it's because your offer is aligned to the way that you used to do your work, like 1 degree change ago, right? And it just needs to be updated. That can be the difference internally to shift everything for you externally. Because if you're feeling meh about your work or your business, I don't want to create a self-fulfilling prophecy, and I do not believe that you need to like be high vibe to sell stuff and no, like I do not believe that at all. I completely disagree with that. I love me some woo, but that is not how I operate because I think that's just toxic positivity, and I think that we can and do and will sell and make money regardless of what's going on behind the scenes. And that's just another way that society likes to tell us we have to be perfect. And so I just don't buy into that. But if we've lost confidence or if we've lost our zhuzh and fire for the work that we do, yeah, that's going to come across when we're trying to sell it, right? Hey, do you want to come work with me? I help small business owners do better stuff. Meh, right? Like, do you want to work with me if I'm not sold on myself, right? Do you want to work with me if I've lost my confidence? Do you trust me to be able to hold you in the shit that you're going to deal with as a business owner, right? Like, again, you don't have to be a magical unicorn and you don't have to be perfect and you do not have to smile all the time. And when we can start to solve the right problem behind the scenes in the business, it just makes everything else easier. It makes it easier to sell, as an example. Yeah, and then the other thing, I really already mentioned this, but I just want to say it again. So if the work itself, if something's going on in the work itself, if you are working under your potential, the other way that that can impact you is two things. One, it can also impact the way you serve your clients, which then makes them maybe less likely to renew or less likely to refer you to someone, or just 1% less happy, which is okay. Again, we're not trying to run perfect businesses. You do not have to like be at your client's beck and call. But again, your enjoyment, your genius is magnetic, is exciting. It makes other people feel like you've got them. And when that is off, it's also going to affect that. So again, if sales feel hard for you right now, or if you're not, that's another example. Like maybe the symptom is that clients aren't renewing the way they used to, right? Does that mean you're bad at what you do? Or does that mean that you've kind of shifted your like zone of genius and your potential, and your existing clients don't quite, some of them match that, but some of them don't, right? That's not your fault. That's just normal life. But we do then want to adjust our marketing and our strategy and our offers to support where you're going, right? But again, this is about finding like where the, I'm just going to do this, where the source of the problem is. Instead of pointing there, it's there. Instead of pointing to myself, it's there. Okay, great. Now we know what to do. So I'm hopeful I'm talking about a lot of different scenarios, but I'm hopeful one of these is yours. And then finally, it doesn't just affect your impact to do good work with your clients, or to do your best work with your clients, or to have an easier relationship with your clients, but then it can also affect other areas of the business, right? It can have the trickle-down effect. And again, whether it's symptom or cause, sometimes those get flipped on their head. And that's because businesses are interdependent systems and they involve humans, right? So if you just think about your body is an interdependent system, right? The earth and the solar system are interdependent systems. If something happens to the sun, right, we're kind of screwed. If one of the planets spins out of their orbit, this is a terrible example because I don't know anything about the solar system, right? But then it's probably going to affect the rest of us, right? If I have, let me think of about a body one. If I have a cold, it's going to affect my energy. I don't have an energy problem. I just have a cold, right? But my energy is then affected, and my energy, so if I have a cold, here's a good one. I have a cold, it affects my energy. Now I don't have a lot of energy. Now I'm like sluggish and slow. And maybe I start to get a little bit depressed that week because I really don't want to be in my bed all day. I want to go out and enjoy the day. I want to like talk to people, and I just like, all I have energy to do is lay in my bed. But I don't have depression. I have a cold, right? So the source is my cold and depression is the symptom, or feeling sadness and low. Let's just say it that way, right? My energy levels being low. It's not that I am deficient in iron necessarily or something else. Or protein or whatever else that gives you energy. It's probably just that I have a cold. So I don't need to go worry about, like, call a doctor about my low energy. I just need to like rest and get my cold resolved. Okay. All right, we've got a few more minutes. I'm going to give you a quick and dirty on my coaching framework in case what I said didn't resonate in terms of what's working and not working in your business. Okay, let me just read this comment here. I've attended several networking events this year. Sorry, I need my glasses. I can't read this. Okay, hold on. I've reached out to schedule one-on-one with people I connect with during the event and never receive a response. I just don't understand why some people attend these networking events and don't respond when asked to schedule a one-on-one. I assume you are on a network call because you want to grow your network. Not sure if this is on topic, but definitely a reason I'm feeling meh about business right now. Yeah, and I think that's also, I think that's a common one. I think it's like, I think on the one hand that happens. On the other hand, we just get better and better at identifying the right people to talk to, right? Versus just anybody to talk to. And I'm not saying that you're throwing out, it's like going to a bar and asking out every, single person in the bar on a date. Like, of course, I'm not saying that you're doing that, but just as an example, right? We get better at like, I'm going to talk to these 2 people, or like, that was a great call. These were my 2 favorite people. I'm only going to reach out to them, or whatever, right? Because if they're feeling that way about you, they're more likely to follow through. Everybody's busy. And that's the other one. Everybody's just busy. And it is a long game. And I find that a lot of times people will write me back like a month later and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, didn't see that. I did that last week. Last week I found an old email that I had not responded to and completely didn't mean to ghost them. I just got busy and it went down below my one scroll, right? But I also think the other piece that I'm hearing in that, this is around networking, but I've heard the same thing. I really feel like I've heard this my whole time in business around reaching out for sales process, right? Like if you make an offer to someone or somebody has you have a sales call with someone and then you follow up afterwards and they don't respond, that's just also normal. And I just want to normalize that. Like, I'm not saying being ghosted and never replying all the time. That's not good business practice. That's not normal. You don't need to expect nothingness from people. And it just will happen, right? I think it's like there's, what's the thing we used to say? It's the cost of doing business, right? Like sometimes you're going to get on a call and people aren't going to show up. Sometimes like you will never be able to build your business to where somebody isn't late on a payment. Like it's just human. Do we want to have a setup where people are always late and we just think that's okay? No, right? We want to have proper boundaries and processes that support that, but there will just always be that. And I think for you, if you're feeling like you're not getting that reciprocal, I would go back and sit and think about who are the kinds of people that I want to connect with, and just really getting a little bit like 1% more strategic and refined, and then intentionally go after those people when you're in the larger groups. And I think that a lot of times that one little intentional piece makes a difference. I can't solve everything, but I just want to throw that out there. I hope that helps. Okay, and so briefly, I just want to walk through a couple of little pieces here. So again, most of what I'll talk for like 5 more minutes if you want to stay. Most of what I wanted to talk about today is one, this concept of understanding what's the problem and what's the symptom, and not blaming yourself. Yes, we could always do better, and we might be missing something, right? But that's not going to help you solve the problem by blaming yourself. Yes, deal with your feelings. Yes, talk to a friend, a colleague, a therapist, a coach. That needs to be processed. But most likely, it is, something in the business or something in your mindset, which again is not, even if it is you, like, we don't need to point the blame and get mad at it. We can just then solve it. Oh, I have a visibility issue that keeps me holding myself back from putting out thought leadership and content and hot takes that my people really want to hear, but I'm too shy to say it. And so because I don't do that, the people who need to hear what I have to say aren't hearing what I have to say, and that's why I'm not making sales. And so then I can go and work on my mindset and my courage and my confidence and start getting myself out there, right? So again, number one, we want to solve the right problem. So if things aren't feeling good, where is it? Can you isolate it? And can we just let that be all that it is? And then where is it being affected elsewhere, right? So the person who had a question about networking, maybe it's the networking piece, or maybe you're just not loving marketing in general, and your work is around finding a way to find the way that feels better to you and to hone that skill, right? I know a lot of people do not like marketing. And so once they do put themselves out there, if they don't get a quick response, I'm not saying this is you, then it's just like, okay, I don't like it, right? It may just be that I don't want to say you need to fall in love with marketing, but find a way to not hate it. could be the standard to start with. And that is real. That is real. I talk to people about that all the time. And you don't have to love it. Okay, so I'm quickly just going to walk you through this in case it's helpful. So number one, finding the right problem. Number two, that problem could simply be that you have grown and evolved and your potential has jumped up and the business hasn't caught up to that yet. It could just be that. And again, it might be the source of that could be the industry changes. The source of that could be other things. But that, whether it's a symptom or a cause, is something to pay attention to because it will then become the cause of the next thing, right? It can create a domino effect. And it also creates, negatively, but it also creates I guess that's the final piece I wanted to say about this. It also creates a domino effect in the positive when you can find that and go, oh, like my favorite example is I have lots of copywriters and web designers who are clients. And a lot of times they both do both both pieces of work. They write the copy and they create the design for the website. And then somewhere along their journey, they realize they really like one or the other, or they really like doing both. And that realization is different for everyone. But once they realize that, man, it's real. Like once you decide you don't want to be a copywriter anymore, it's really hard to write copy for people. It just is. Okay. Okay, so just briefly, the way I have 4 pieces to my coaching framework. And again, it's also just a way to look at business. So if you're feeling like I haven't quite hit on your thing, here's your homework to go workshop. I will do another, Think Differently around this framework because I think it's helpful to do strategic planning around. I think it's helpful to find the right problem. I think it's helpful to just think through like a business audit. So we can talk more in detail about this. But number 1 is having a clear vision. So if you don't know what you want or you don't know where you're going, it's really hard to get there with any sort of results. This is also something that I see a lot of people when sales slow down. Again, if they start to change things that are already working, they might go, oh, like I could just say, people don't like business coaching anymore. People have decided they don't like business coaching anymore, right? It's not me, it's the industry, it's all the people out there. They don't like business coaching anymore. So I better hurry up and go over here and create some other service, right? That's going to slow my business results down too, right? But not having a clear not having a clear vision or knowing what you want, or within that clear vision, it means also committing to it. So not changing your mind all the time. And sometimes we have to change things around in order to get clear on that commitment. So I'm not saying you can't change it. And definitely you have to change things over time. But when we are changing our vision every 3 to 6 months, that's too much, and it's never going to generate the results that you're looking for, and that alone can be the problem. And so again, if you have a clear vision and you know what you want to offer and you know what you do and you know why you do it and you know how it supports your lifestyle and it's operating at your potential, then we can create execution plans around that, right? So it starts with having a clear vision. So if stuff feels weird in your business, go back. Do I have a clear vision? Do I know what I really want? And if not, that's your first step. Clear vision. Number 2, mindset. I could talk all day about that. We talked about that a little bit today. The one thing I will say about mindset is I find that in a buyer's market, people start to decide that it's not working. And then when we tell our brain that it's not working, all it does is just show us evidence that it's not working. And then all we see is that it's not working, right? When I was looking for a Volkswagen Jetta back in 2001, all I could see on the road were Volkswagen Jettas. There were not that many Volkswagen Jettas out there, right? But you prime your brain. You know that exists, right? Mindset work works. I will die on that hill. It is one of my favorite things. But it works. I literally have, and I put this together about a couple of years ago. when I experienced a dip in my business, and I will also say, like, this has been one of my best years in 3 or 4 years. Like, things are working. I have clients that are making comebacks. Like, my business is doing great. I'm not the only one. There are things working. But if you need this reminder, like, things are working in my business, but I also have this sitting on my Post-it note, sitting on my laptop that says everything is working. Because I'm just determined to brainwash myself around the fact that everything is working, because I just know that I'm a better business owner when I do that. Okay, clear vision. Having a good mindset. That's not even it. Having a strong mindset. It doesn't mean that you don't have feelings. It just means that you have a mindset around your business that is supportive. And then the last 2 pieces, strategic decisions and action. This is where all the businessy stuff comes in, right? Having a strategic decision and having a strategy means you have a business model that makes sense. You have a marketing strategy that makes sense. You have offers that line up to your business model and your marketing strategy. If you're making changes, you not only know what changes you're making, back to that clear vision, but you also have a change strategy. If you're changing things in your business, I would love to talk to you, because that is my jam. It also goes strategic decisions and action. It's strategy outside the organization, so your marketing strategy and things that other people are going to see. And then it's also strategy on the inside of your organization. Are you efficient? Do you have systems and processes? Is your team set up with the right people in the right roles, and do they have systems and processes that support them in doing their work really, really well? All of those pieces. So again, one of the things, I just got off a call with someone this morning who is a coach and has scaled their team really fast, and also another person doing really well this year. And they are really overwhelmed because they do not have the right team members in the right places, and they do not have yet the right systems and processes to set the organization up to grow and scale in the way that they're already growing, like they can barely hold their capacity. And some of what we were talking about today was simply that the problem isn't sales. The problem, okay, maybe a symptom is profitability, right? A symptom is she's freaking overwhelmed, that's for sure, and she's overworked. But the source of the problem is that the underlying support systems in the business, from systems and processes and people, and those all go together really intricately. My VAs and my OBMs know this stuff. When those are failing, they will always be pulling your time and energy, because there will always be a problem, or there'll be something that takes too long of a manual process, and that's going to pull the business owner and the people serving the clients back to the little stuff and away from the stuff that makes money. And so that is always going to affect your profitability. That's a really great example. Thank you to the person that I spoke with this morning for that example. You just paid it forward. And then finally, ongoing evolution is what I call this. I've called it adaptability, resilience, iteration, but I think it's really how we evolve. So this is, again, kind of coming back full circle a little bit to that clear vision. You can have a clear vision, and as we talked about today, as your work shifts and evolves over time, as you grow, as your potential grows, as your skills as a business owner grow, as your skills as a practitioner or whatever it is that you do grow, the business has to line up to support that too. And so we are always setting our business up for ongoing evolution. Again, it does not mean we're changing shit every 5 minutes or even every year. But when things do change in one area of the business and it doesn't line up, the other areas don't have an opportunity to line back up, that alone can make everything just feel harder. And so we always want to be open to, I'll use myself as an example. I just want to keep getting better and better at being a coach. Like, it's very simple, but that's just what I want to do. And so that means sometimes I'm going to be looking for one type of client versus another type of client if I'm looking to stretch myself in a certain area, right? It means that I might be changing the way that I talk about my work as I grow, so that I can keep serving the kinds of clients that really, really serve me as well. So that when I'm served and happy, they are also served. And then as I grow, I might also need to adjust the business to support that too. What if I just change my mind and get out of one-on-one and want to do a group, right? And then I have to change my business model to support that. But that ongoing evolution and being able to then go back to what is my clear vision? How can I have strategic decisions and action externally and internally? And how can I align my mindset up to that? That's what kind of keeps you going. Okay. I hope this was helpful. Again, if we hit on your source, your homework now is to just go back and sit quietly with the fact that that's all that it is. One, that's it. You can acknowledge it, and there's power in knowledge. Two, that's all that it is. Sometimes I like to recommend to my clients, I always give my clients homework, so I'll give you a homework assignment today. Go down, sit down and write all the things that are not problems. Better said, all the things that are working, all the things that you don't need to change, all the things that are good, or good enough even, right? That can be validating, again, to reprime your brain, to get your mindset back on track with what the actual problem is instead of what your brain wants to tell you that it is, or that you've just decided it's not working. There's always some way to make it work. It doesn't mean that it's the thing that you want to do, and it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, and it doesn't mean that it's going to make you $1 million in 3 minutes. But there's always something that you can do. And so if you can just keep staying with that, you're in business for the long run, which I think is the point. Okay, let me just quickly check the chat, and then I'll tell you what we are talking about next week. This was so great as always. Thank you. Looking forward to the replay to catch a few pieces I missed. You're welcome, and thank you so much. Okay, yay. Okay, so next week, I do not have my titles yet, but I have my topics, so these are not even posted on the website. So if you want to sign up for next month, we're meeting on the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. This will be on the website by the end of the week. We're talking about what worked in 2024. So a little bit, as I said earlier, I mentioned the replay from earlier this month where I talked about 3 things that are working right now. Those were very, very specific strategies that I find to be working right now. This is a little different. These are some things that have always worked in business that are a little bit higher level, and how I see them working these days. And it's very specific to 2024. So that's one, what's working. Kind of like a year in review in that sense. Number 2, if this concept that we mentioned today about having a clear vision, if that feels like your challenge or a piece of the challenge, I'm going to do a deep dive into the vision, having a clear vision. And in fact, I'm going to quote a client of mine who gave me this idea because one of the reasons she hired me is she said, I just have a cloudy vision. My vision is cloudy and that doesn't feel good. And I really want to have a clear vision again. And so that's the work that we dove into together first. So if you're stuck on what I want, I don't even know what I want anymore, that's the place to start. And if you know what you want, then you can start to move into the how. And then again, sometimes it's like, well, I know what I want, but I just want to enjoy my business, right? We need to get a little more specific than that so that we can build a business around that clear vision. And then finally, the other topic next month is going to be making good business investments. Really, really, really important. We're going to be emphasizing that around hiring and making good hiring decisions. So whether you need to get a VA, a web designer, a coach, a financial advisor, an accountant, whatever, right? There's always 40 million people we could be hiring. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that we have as small business owners is knowing who to hire first and who to wait on. There's always somebody. I'm always thinking 2 steps ahead in terms of who I want to hire. And I have to execute based on what my business needs right now. And so we're going to talk a lot about how to make good investments. It's not just all hiring, but it'll be heavily focused on hiring. So if that's a topic for you, we will see you at that one. And please sign up. Please join us again. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Recording stopped.